Hello everybody, my name is Zool and welcome to 2015, and by that I mean welcome to 2060. This is going off great so far. Welcome to something a little bit different on my channel. Welcome to Top 4, a series where I tell you my top 4 on things. That was an awkward way to say that. We're starting off the new year right, everybody. Okay, so welcome to my top 4 games of 2015. Before we begin, I guess I need to give you a couple of guidelines, kind of how I decided what these games were. So, the games have to have come out in 2015. This includes DLC, so if there was a DLC package released, I will include that kind of in this list, because, you know, some DLC is significant enough to warrant its own sort of thing. Next up, it has to be a game that I've played, so if it's something that I haven't played, it is not eligible for the list. Again, this is personal preference, so, you know, you may have different results. If you want to dispute this, you can argue with me in the comments, that's okay. And finally, the real motivator for me is a game that I found engaging. I don't have a lot of time to play a ton of games anymore, so if there's a game that really brought me back over and over and over again, then that game is going to win one of the Zool top 4 places. So I guess without further ado, let's start. Number 4. Until Dawn made number 4 on my list, even though it's a PS4 game. Now, to preface this, I don't own a PS4, and I generally don't like playing console games. That being said, Until Dawn was a real treat to play. One of my friends invited me over. I ended up playing through, I think, 90% of the game. I'm still not at the very end, and that's just because I haven't had the time to go back and continue playing it, but overall, Until Dawn is fun. It's a cheesy homage to horror movies in a world that was built specifically for the genre. The reason this game hits my number 4 spot is for 3 reasons. The settings, the characters, and just the brilliant presentation. So first of all, the setting. The setting is amazing. The mountains looked beautiful, it was creepy, and it really did put me on edge. Yes, the game did overuse jump scares, and eventually I was sort of used to it, so I could predict when they were coming, and it didn't really scare me as much. And also, the game pretty much run at like 24 FPS the entire time because the PS4 was trying to render all the snow, and I complained about the frame choppiness to my friend, I don't know, every 15 minutes or so when I noticed it. It's just sort of unspoiled by being sort of a PC master race kind of guy. Just don't get all mad in the comments, but I'm sorry, but the game didn't really run that well. The characters, though, were great. They reminded me of the characters from Heavy Rain. They had all of their personalities. There was characters that I didn't like, there was characters that I like. It was awesome because video game characters are usually really flat. Now, I'm not saying the characters from Until Dawn have a ton of depth to them, but they were all a lot deeper than the typical video game character. It was great, and the female characters weren't written like stupid paper dolls, and that drives me crazy when that happens, so that is another +1 for me, is well, or better written characters, let's just say that. And then finally, the presentation. The presentation was great. It was scary, the jump scares were there still, it created a bit of a sense of horror and suspense. The story was over the top, but it suits the genre perfectly. And finally, all of your choices have consequences. And not in the video gamey way where you click the up button while you're doing dialogue to be the good guy and click the down button on your dialogue to be the bad guy. No. Everything had choices through this awesome system called the butterfly effect. If you did something early game, it would ripple out and change things way later in the game. A choice you made could save or kill a character later on, and yes, there is deaths for your character, there's some real consequences. Very, very engaging. There's also these totems you could find, which would give you hints to the future, notes and clues that would help you puzzle things out, and a very large, very awesome branching storyline. This game is a really good game, even though it came out on PS4. 3! Number 3 on my list of top games of 2015 is Distance. That's right, I am saying that Distance is in my top games, and the reason I'm saying that is because I just kept coming back to it. It's a really tight game with solid graphics, and it's super fun, and that's really all you need in a game. You don't always need a sweeping story or engaging characters. Sometimes you need something that just draws you in, is fun, and then you can go do something else. For me, I'm very busy. I have to make all of these YouTube videos, and I also have to try and have a life outside of that. Because of this, I don't actually get to play all too many games, so when I started playing Distance, it was something that was nice and short, and I could play in bursts of 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes, just get in a couple of races, and it had some tight mechanics that felt so fun when you could pull off those clutch, hairpin moves. You can run around a mysterious, deadly kind of tech, sort of cyborgy looking city by jumping, flying, rotating, climbing up walls, sliding around on the roof. It was awesome. I did a full review of the game and I did really love it. It was especially extended by the wonderful soundtrack and the powerful level editor that has created a ton of community levels that allow you to continue racing for a long time. One thing that I don't really like, which is kind of not really the game's fault, is how a lot of people use the level editor to just sort of play race only with none of the jumping and the flipping and the flying, because to me that was the best part. But overall, Distance is a super solid game, and if you don't own it, it's usually really cheap on Steam, so you should definitely pick it up. 2. A lot of people are probably surprised by the game that's number 2 on my Game of the Year. You can see it on the screen right now, Fallout 4. Now, I'm not saying Fallout 4 isn't a good game, and it was very close to being my Game of the Year. The game has an outstanding world, and it just has so many amazing little details. Be it just kind of the way a little teddy bear was placed in a funny location, or just the way that even the raiders, the enemies, have their own stories. You know, you go into a raider base, you kill everybody because, of course, they're raiders, they're bad guys, and then you find out, oh, she was a raider because her sister needed food. Oh, that's awkward. Or maybe you help somebody out and oh, it turns out that he actually was just planning on robbing people with that base you cleared out for him, and then you have to come back and clear him out. It's just the little things like that make this game amazing. Adding into the great graphics, the really good story with a compelling villain, and I mean, it's a good story for a Bethesda game. There, I said it, their games don't usually have the best story. And of course, the crafting system. The crafting system in Fallout 4 is something I couldn't have ever believed. You could basically take any weapon and make it into any other weapon. At first, I thought this was going to be really lame. I was kind of like, getting rid of weapon durability, but actually, it makes things so much more compelling. Adding on to the much better, in my opinion, perk system, and of course, the fact that you can craft an entire damn building and build your own settlements, make this game awesome. The atmosphere is great. I have spent hours and hours just exploring. I'm still on my first playthrough and I'm like 60 hours into the game or something like that. I've been obsessively gathering little relics, wandering around the wasteland without even fast traveling, and the mods aren't even out yet. This is a game that I will be playing 5 years from now. 6 years from now, who knows? I'm still playing Skyrim, and that game came out in 2011, and I still am planning on doing another playthrough, after I get done with Fallout 4. But the game didn't make the cut for my top game, and that's because there was something else that drew me in even more than Fallout 4, yes. Even though I've already played a ton of time into this game, there was something else that I found more engaging. Number 1! The winner of the Zool Game of the Year Award for 2015 is the Talos Principle Road to Gehenna. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to like this decision. First off, because, well, it's not actually a game, it's a DLC. And my reasoning for giving this DLC the Game of the Year is put simply because I consider it to be more of an expansion pack than a DLC, and also I get to make the rules, so I get to do whatever I damn want. Sorry if you don't like that, but I don't know what to say. I get to make the decision, so too bad, so sad. That's what the game wins. If you want to argue with me, there's the comments down below. Okay, so that's kind of why it's on the list, but why did it win the Game of the Year? Well, put simply because the Talos Principle is already up there in some of my top games. That game, if you haven't played it, pause the video, go play that entire game, and then come back because it's incredible. I mean, you don't even have to come back, just go buy the game and play it. It's great. The game is beautiful. It's probably the best looking game I have ever played, and it has the best PC options menu, performance optimizations, and all stuff out of pretty much any game that I've ever played as well. And of course, all of that extends to the DLC. The DLC also isn't afraid to continue where the game left off. And it really does continue right after the main story and just continues on with the amazing puzzle mechanics, the fantastic story writing, That's not to say that it's just more of the same though. The game does feel very different. Whereas in the original Talos Principle, the player character got to feel very human, you got to feel like you had a choice, and you got to deal with some very, very interesting philosophical conundrums. This game has a whole other feel to it. It's a lot more tongue-in-cheek. It really reminds me of kind of 90s internet message board sort of stuff. It actually kind of reminds me of hanging out on deadlystream.com a little bit, to be honest. And overall, it explores art, it explores humanity, it explores different ways of expression in that really philosophical way that really scratches that itch that I have that games normally don't settle, because most games really don't like making you think about things, ponder philosophy. They like to, give you some answers, and even if they do ask questions, they're generally not as open-ended as they are in the Talos Principle. In this game, you do feel a little bit more constrained than the main story, but I think it works because you still get to have these interactions which are funny and engaging and clever. The puzzles have been stepped up a notch. They continue from the difficulty right the way off of the main story, and oh my goodness is the Star World hard. But when you solve those puzzles, you feel good. Just like the main game, it's also chock full of a ton of wonderful Easter eggs. I'm kinda sad that they didn't add a new map type. I was really hoping that we would get to see kind of another culture's philosophy, but it still worked out really well. It was interesting going down into what was essentially hell and trying to redeem lost souls, because that's basically what the game is about. I could ramble on longer, but I wouldn't even scratch the surface, and I am rambling enough, so I'm going to end the video here. My game of the year for 2015 is the Talos Principle Road to Gehenna, unless you don't include DLC, in which case it's Fallout 4. Alright everybody, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm not really sure how this is going to go. I don't usually do videos in this format, but a couple of people have kind of asked me, sort of, hey Zool, like what games do you like? What's your game of the year? So I might release a couple more of these. I might release top 4 games of all time. I might sort of throw these in kind of with my regular content, since that seems to be something popular on YouTube. I don't know. If you'd like me to stick with my traditional standard, throw a thumbs down on this video and leave a comment telling me what you'd like me to focus on. If you would like to see more of this video, hit that thumbs up button. It will, let me know, okay, people want to see more of these top 4 videos, and we can go from there. I can actually, make up some nice graphics instead of this thing I threw together in about 10 minutes at the beginning of this video, and I'll get all sorts of assets, and it's going to be wonderful. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I've been Zool, and I hope that you have an excellent day.